Copper State Marching Podcast, sponsored by Arizona Marching Band Association, AZMBA. My name is Martin Hebda, the AZMBA Director of Education and Outreach.
And I'm Aaron Vogel. The AZMBA Copper State podcast was created to bring together the Arizona marching band community and to connect, educate, and entertain those involved in this wonderful activity.
Aaron, it's great to see you. It kind of seems like you've had a busy week. I saw you did some concert adjudication. How did that go for you?
Yeah, busy season right now at work, and then busy season just going through concert band. I was at the Thursday Aboda Area Festival, which is at Camelback High School. Joe Goglia and his kids do a great job hosting that festival, so everything was really smooth. And my overall takeaways from the festival were groups seem to be bigger. Like there seems to be a rebound in terms of band size from COVID. So that was just my takeaway, my first takeaway from watching all the groups. And then some groups in particular really stuck out to me just in terms of where they've grown to in terms of quality. One of those being Deer Valley. I saw both of Deer Valley groups, and that was a sister school of mine when I was teaching in the district. And Kalila Govan really has elevated where they're at, big numbers. And then both groups were fantastic, got, ones across the board. And then I also was very impressed with Academies at South Mountain and their director, just really clean, like really clean, precise, and also from both groups. So those are the big stickouts to me.
Yeah, we've had kind of a busy week. We had our out-of-state WGI Temecula trip that we took with the group, and that was a successful time for us. We have in our town, we do a band gala where we bring all the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders into our stadium, and we have a 5th, 6th band perform two pieces, and then a 7th, 8th combined perform, and both high schools combined perform two pieces, and then we bring all 700 kids together for a mass band and get the whole town there. We have the mayor speak at it, which is a former band parent, and just a really good time. And it's a short and sweet concert, and it's just really cool getting everybody there.
That's great. But tell us more about the WGI trip. So you took drumline, guard, just drumline, just
I
guard.
We took just drumline to Temecula. It's actually the first time we've done the Temecula show. We've been doing Western Champs quite a bit since probably about 2014 or 2015. This year on that date, we're hosting a competition, so we went to Temecula. It was a great trip. It was at Great Oak High School and probably the best facility that for hosting a competition that I've been at. It was just everything was real close, plenty of warm up space. The exit was right next to where the trucks were, so it was a good time. It was a good time.
That's great. And then, of course, you came back here this week, and there's the WGI Phoenix Regional. How'd that
Yeah,
go?
yeah. Well, that went well. It was kind of funny because when we were in California, it was like 40-degree warming up temperature in the morning, and then when we were warming up yesterday, it was 90 degrees, and yeah, so it
Welcome
was
home.
yeah, welcome home, drastic change. It was actually beautiful for the evening. The evening performance warm up time is exactly where we wanted it to be. That's why we live in Arizona is for that nighttime, and so yeah, that was good to have that done, and we get a Sunday off. And then we're gearing up for all state auditions. So that's
Yeah,
and then we're just trying to get to spring break, really.
yeah. 1 week to go, right?
That's all we got. And then my school has 2 weeks of a break, so that's kind of a nice time to get stuff done.
Oh, very nice.
Right. So before we move on to our guests, we want to do a quick shout out to all of our sponsors. AZMBA would like to thank our sponsors: Arizona Cardinals Football Club, The Band Shop, Bravgo Media, Encore Gifts, Forte Athletics, Instrumental Music Center, Mac Pack, Milano's Music, Music Celebrations International, Music for All, Pieces of Flair, Scoreboard Fundraising, Show Dots, Tide Dry Cleaners, and Yamaha. Thank you for supporting AZMBA.
We're beginning the Director's Cut series, leading the design process as a director. So, really excited to be interviewing a number of directors, both here locally and key directors that are now retired from the classroom, but are really well known nationwide in terms of how they've guided their own programs and other programs to success. So, it's really exciting. Martin, will you tell us a little bit about who we're going to be interviewing?
Our first guest is going to be Jeff Marchant from Rincon University High School. And then we're also going to bring on Richard Salcedo and Darren Davis to speak with us. So we've been planning this series for some time, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Richard, of course, the longtime director at Carmel High School, wrote for the Cavaliers for a number of years, including their, back-to-back-to-back championship years. Is still involved now, is still writing, and just does a great job with show design. And Darren Davis, who's now fine arts director for the Broken Arrow schools in Oklahoma. He was the longtime band director at Broken Arrow High School with incredible designs, BOA national grand national champions. So we're just very, very excited about that. So hope you'll stick with us and join us for Jeff, Darren, and for Richard. Our first director up on the Director's Cut series is Jeff Marchant, the longtime band director at Rincon University High School. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, hey, tell us a little bit about your background, about your school. And I see you've got a really cool hat on with an epic logo. So yeah, tell us a bit about that and all the things.
All right. I've been at this school since 2010, and it's an interesting school because on one campus there's a test-in academically highly academic school that's called University High School. It's a college prep school. Lots of gifted kids go to that school, and they have to test in to get in there. And then on the same campus, there's the local school, Rincon High School, which is the local, the neighborhood school, high school that you would go to if you're in that area. And they have separate classes except for fine arts, PE, vocational ed, stuff like that is shared. So there's kids from both schools in the band program, as well as all the other arts. When I arrived, one of the weird messaging things I noticed was that there was no unifying logo for the whole school. There was Rincon Rangers had their cowboy hat, and then the UHS is the Penguins, and they had a penguin. And so every document had two logos on it. And I felt like that was diluting the message. And so I wanted our brand to be something that everyone knew about, at least on campus, maybe in Tucson, and eventually maybe in the state, which I think it has become. And so I created this logo, and then it slowly got onto football helmets, other teams' jackets. It's painted on our gym floor and everything. So I doubt if there's very many people at the school that remember where that logo came from, but I started to see administrators using it in their email signatures and stuff like that. So I think that's important to have a really identifiable logo for your program, whether it's your school logo or not, whether it's just one for your program. I think every document should have that on it. I think everything you send out to parents will affect the amount of trust they have in the program. So like I'm really careful about documents that go out to the parents, that they look as professional as possible. There's one small downside to that, but overall it's mostly positive.
What's the one small downside?
The one small downside, I think, is that, our program does not have a lot of money. We sort of scrape for everything we have, and we scrape a lot, and so we have a lot. So when we send out these really professional looking, invoices and things to parents, I think some of them go, okay, they got it handled. They don't need to volunteer because it seems so professional. So that's the one small downside, but overall, I think it's important that the parents trust you to take their kids on a trip and across state lines and all that stuff. And one of the ways they trust you is if everything they see is done in a professional way.
So at our AMBA conference, we got an opportunity to see your jazz band and hear your jazz band and maybe one of the top parts of the conference. So congratulations on an amazing performance. Anything you'd like
Congrats.
to share about that?
Thanks. No, this is the third time we've played at AMEA, and every time I send in the recording, I'm like, it's not as good as I would have liked. And then we've been invited each time that we've sent in the recording. And yeah, it's a blast to play those. If anyone else gets a chance to play at their MEA conference, they should do it. You're playing for a really receptive crowd, a really critical crowd, and I think it's good for your kids to do that as well. So that was a really good time, and AMEA treated us really well.
I think just in the since you've been at Rincon, very, very classy program. I think known across the state as just being fantastic individuals. I know whenever my school goes to an event and your students are there, they really enjoy talking to them, and I think that's a reflection of you.
Well, thank you. I think it's also part of the fact that we talk about that all the time, how we come across to other people, non-band people, other bands. There are bands in our city that are very small, struggling bands that the highlight of their year, according to their directors, is when they get cheered on by our band because
Mm.
they look up to our band so much. And so we take that responsibility pretty seriously. And we talk about it every year. Every year I get a bunch of new freshmen that don't know that innately. And so we talk about it all the time.
I think that's important, and that's why they hold themselves the way they do. And another thing about Rincon is I think you guys have a style, or just like your shows, they always feel Rincon. Is there something specific that you look for when you're trying to create a show, or is it just like it throughout the design process it becomes that?
Yeah, yeah, the design process for us is kind of interesting because it almost always ends up being the show that I want to do, even though there are other shows in the mix, but it never ends up being the show that I thought we were going to do, right? So, um, I don't know if you want to launch right into this right away, but I don't give that much thought to keeping the show our style, and I think we're a high school band that does have a style that people recognize, kind of in a way. I don't see that from very many other high school bands. I see really good bands that play one year and then the next year they do another show. But unlike, say, top 12 drum corps, I wouldn't automatically assume that was the same band, whereas a lot of the top 12 corps have their own look and style. We tried to do the same thing, and it came out of the music selection. So one of the things that I think we do a little bit differently is I always want to have one or two pieces that virtually everyone in the stands knows that
Mhm.
they might go, I think I know this song. What is this from? It might be something really old that they remember and have maybe a good nostalgic feeling about. And then the rest of the show, I can challenge them. And then, so that's part of our style. And when we do, some of the tunes we've done in a very serious show have been basically rock tunes. I mean, we did an Ozzy Osbourne tune in a show, and but I think the way it worked is because I was really insistent that the percussion writers do not write it as a rock tune. So they treat it like it's the same high quality music as the rest of the show, which it is. And then it seems to fit. And we've even had judges comment on the fact that, wow, you can do Ozzy Osbourne and Ron Nelson in the same show and it works. And I think a lot of that is percussion that ties it together. We try to get a sound of our front ensemble, sound of our battery, and use that throughout. Of course, we vary it, but we don't want to sound like a different band on different movements of the show. Almost every idea of a show that I have starts with a song, starts with a piece that I've always wanted to do on the field. And then I figure out the theme after that. And I know that may be different. I don't really, honestly, I don't really know how most bands do it. But the theme to me is a slave to the music. So I start with at least one piece of music that I've maybe been bouncing around for years in my head, thinking this would be a good piece to open a show with or close the show with or something. And then we build out from there. And there have been plenty of shows where I go, well, I have this one piece and maybe a couple of other tunes, but I'm a little lukewarm on it. But when I talk about the one piece and the idea, then I have other people that are like, that's a good idea, and I have a piece that's going to work in there. And almost every year, our show designer Ryan Springler, will come up with a piece that I had never heard of that fits the show perfectly, and it kind of ties everything together. Because I wouldn't say I'm a brilliant designer, but I know what's going to make a good show. And to me, a good show has to work on Friday night as well as Saturday afternoon. And there's a lot of shows that I think really work well on Saturday and not so much on Friday. So we have a really big fan base at our school in our community. We have a very underachieving football team, and yet we will pack the stands at least through halftime. And a lot of that is because we do shows that I'm hoping that we're walking the line, that it is still going to be competitive, but it also is entertaining for people that are maybe not that interested in the activity.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've got a real recipe for success. You've got a list of tunes that you're really passionate about, that you love, combining that with other songs from your other designers, from Ryan, other thoughts in there. Tell us a little bit about that process. So, the logistics of the list, like, do you have a written down list? Is it all just in your head? And then when do you start the process of putting together, let's say, next fall's show?
Okay, so um, well, we're way behind right now. So, and we often are. We have a really sort of comprehensive program. We have competitive color guards, two of them. We have competitive percussion, indoor percussion. We have a big jazz program. We have a big concert band program. So we have goal dates for everything, and then we generally miss most of them. But it keeps us from getting too far behind, I hope. But so once we have a date, the I don't really talk to the whole staff unless there's a junior staff member that really has an idea that they want to bring. But they usually don't. It's usually the two directors, and I'm a co-director with Dan Phillips. So it'll be me and Dan, and then our color guard instructor, Nicole Hamilton, who's been with us since 2008, 2 years before I got there. She's an amazing designer as well. Usually our battery caption head and sometimes our front ensemble caption head will be in those meetings. And then hopefully Ryan and then our winds arranger, which is Martin, and will be in those meetings as well. And we'll just talk through. Now, me personally, every idea I have for marching band, I have a Google spreadsheet and I just keep adding to it. And sometimes they're whole show ideas, sometimes they're just, I would like to do this piece, I would like to do this song, I would like to do this. And some of them are from old drum corps shows that we'll rearrange, or some of them are just pieces that I think someone should do this tune, and I don't think anybody has. So we start with that list, and I'll go through my entire running list that I have and talk through them. And sometimes people are like, let's do that one, and then I go, okay, tell me why that's exciting. But if I talk through a show that I think is really great and I don't see much interest, I don't see excitement from them, then that's a big red flag for me because I really trust those people, that small group of people. And if they're going, yeah, and we could do this, and I have a great idea for a visual thing for that, and this would be really cool, then I can sort of almost just like sort of sit back and let them talk and let them work it out, and come up with a lot of really good ideas. If they're coming up with ideas, then it's probably a show that's going to work. Is it the best possible show for that year? Who knows, right? But if all the staff is excited and they're like motivated and coming up with ideas, that's what I want. I don't want to be the sole person pushing a show through that they're not interested in. I do not really care that much if the students are interested in it because we've gotten to a point now where we haven't done a bad show in a long time, maybe since before I got there. Maybe in my first year, there was a show that was a little bit regrettable, but we haven't done a bad show. So the upperclassmen are really good at going, just let them handle it. It's going to be good, whatever we do, which is a good place to be. I don't have kids telling their parents that they don't like the show and stuff like that. We've talked a lot over the years, almost every year, with the advent of Box Six and other places that you can buy really high quality shows pre-made. I I go to my student leadership, and we have a really big student leadership. Probably 50 people have some kind of a leadership position, and I'll go to them every year and say, we could probably score higher if we bought one of those shows. If we started there with the GE's already done, we're not inventing the show throughout the season. Do you want to do that? We could probably bump up a little bit. And every year they say no, they don't want to. They want to do a show that no one's ever done before, that it's our show, it was written for us. And I think that's a good sign that they think about competition in a good way. That they're, that winning is not necessarily placing first place all the time, that we can win and not win, if that makes sense.
Well, and being a part of that process, I'm always impressed with how you want to hear everybody's feedback. Like you don't just start with this is going to be our show. And even before you talk about your ideas, which you've got a ton of, you ask them for their feedback on anything that might be sparking their interest, which I think is great for the ownership.
Yeah, I look, I want to give them a framework of what I'm imagining, and then I want them to make it better than I could. And I think a danger is to think that I have to be able to do every one of my staff members' jobs. Then they would all be not as effective as me. I want people that are more effective than me at certain things. I want to hire experts and then sort of stay out of their way. And some of the experts we hire are designers.
You mentioned that you usually have a song that kind of is the starting point. When you have that song, by the end of the year, does that usually end up being your favorite part of the show, or is it oftentimes that's where it started, but you like a different component of the show?
Yeah, that's a great question. There have been many shows where the tune that started it for me is the opening of the show. And that ends up getting crushed down to like 30 seconds, a minute long. And then, yeah, I would say about 50% of the time, there's another part of the show that I fall in love with more than the song that I started with. And sometimes it's not even a song that I knew before we started putting the show together, which is really cool. I've been, turned on to a bunch of new music through this process from the really smart and creative people that I get to work with. There are a lot of times where I start with one song and then that song ends up not in the show. But the idea that created sparked a lot of interest, and I've been talked out of things. And every once in a while, I get talked out of something that at the end I was like, no, I was right. We should have done this. We should have, I don't know, a little bit, but mostly not. I don't think I'm an expert at this, but I'm really good at, I think I'm good at balancing between the competition side and being entertaining for crowds. And it really shows when we walk into the U of A stadium at U of A Band Day, we get massive applause because they know they're going to see a show that they're going to enjoy and they're going to maybe remember some of the melodies afterwards.
Yeah, I remember my very first year teaching, my very first year going to U of A Band Day, I should say. We followed you. And so I saw the show from the Jumbotron, and then I heard the crowd response. And I remember I was like, man, we're going to get crushed tonight. Rincon, just the amount of applause in that stadium for the Rincon band was like totally deafening. So that was a really cool moment. Do you have any, folks are going to like look up during this podcast or after, or maybe something that we can pull, like a favorite memory, a favorite show or a favorite portion of a show for folks to check out from Rincon?
I knew you were going to ask that. And, I was just the other day, we have in our band room, one of the things the drum majors do is every year they take our show shirt design and they rearrange it and they put it into a poster. And so every show is up on the wall. The other day I was sitting there looking at all the shows and I'm like, man, I love all these shows. I would say my favorite one was when we did a show called Heat Suite, and it was a show I kind of did once before when I was at Sabino High School, so we called it Heat Suite 2, even though my kids didn't know we had ever done it before. And it was just songs about heat and summer and stuff like that. And we ended with Malagueña, which was really cool. And I had the people to play it that year. And but we also did some sort of scratch. We did the summertime version by Sublime, which was, and we had record scratches, and I had a tenor player that soloed on that, and so we did a lot of really varied tunes in that, but almost every one of them people in the audience knew, and I thought that show really came together good. Now, was that the cleanest show we'd ever marched? No, I feel like our visual has gotten better and better since then. But just the way I feel about that show, I loved it. I loved that show. So if people want to look that up, that's a pretty fun show to watch.
What year
What
was
year was
that?
that?
I don't know.
I know. Isn't that hard? I can't figure those out either.
Um, I don't know. It was pre-COVID, and I think finals were at ASU Stadium.
Okay, so that might have been, yeah, 17 or 18. Those
Yeah.
are the 2 years it was at
You've
ASU.
had many outstanding soloists. I mean, you've had tuba soloists, you've had tenor sax improving, you've had flute soloists. Um, I mean, you throw a lot of jazz into your shows as well. And do you ever say, okay, I want to do this tune because I have this guy that can play this tenor
Oh,
sax?
absolutely. We call it the pig list. And I got that phrase from who was that Marian Catholic?
Greg Bim.
Yeah, Greg Bim used to say, "Do you have any pigs?" And he meant people that could just play. And so we keep the pig list over here. And I go, we could do this song and have this guy play a flute solo or this person play a mellophone solo or something. And so yeah, we think about that a lot. We're gonna show off a little bit, and it's how well they play, but also how reliable they are showing
Mhm.
up to stuff and things like that. But I always have some backups. If I'm going to put a soloist, I'm going to have a backup soloist as well. Um, I think you can go overboard with soloists and have too many. And you can get into trouble with soloists that are if you don't have a backup. But I think it also is cool if you have the players. So yeah, we do think about that as we're designing. And I'll just talk to Martin and go, this is going to be either tenor or trombone. This is going to be this is going to be that. And then yeah, we have good soloists.
You have the ability to get an entire band to swing and play jazz. So is there something specific in that process to get, 150 plus people to really feel it?
I think yeah, there's a couple of things. First of all, the bigger you can make your jazz program, the better, right? So right now we have three big bands at the school. So I would say in the wind section, almost half the players are playing in some kind of jazz ensemble as well. So we start there, and then I will generally have Martin write our wind parts as if it was swung. So in other words, these are eighth notes, but they're swung. But the percussion parts are generally written in 12/8 so that they have actual triplets to read. I mean, snare players can't just all hear the swing, not because they can't do it, but because it won't be tight. So he almost always writes in 12/8 in triple time where we're writing in duple time, but with swing attached to it. And we've done, if it's a very small amount of swing, then we might not do that. We'll just write it as triplets and stuff and get them to feel it that way. But we also practice a lot in a circle so that people who aren't in jazz, a lot of flutes and clarinets and stuff, are listening to the sound of the other players. Sometimes we'll do a wind rehearsal on the swing parts, but with a jazz drummer playing a drum set instead of the battery parts, just to where we can get it to where okay, it sounds good. It sounds good now. Now let's add in battery and do it the right way. Swing is tough to do on the field. So we'll get it really sounding good standing still, and then we get on the field and the listening responsibilities are really different. And when we're in a swing section, it's really, really critical that our drill writer is staging that in a way that they can always be listening because when you're playing swing, no one's going to play swing together if they're all watching the drum major. It's just not going to happen. So they have to be able to listen back, and that causes some rewrites at times. But a little bit of swing, a little bit of jazz in our show is, I think, part of our style and part of our recognizable style. So we like to do that.
Well, and hopefully the judges appreciate how difficult that is because it's not easy. I've done a few swung sections over the history and not easy to get everyone to do it. So I
Yeah.
think you guys do it very well. I don't see the growing pains throughout the season. I see the finished product only.
Yeah, it is tough, and it is frustrating sometimes that we don't seem to get credit for it. We don't get it, it doesn't get mentioned by the judges. And I've again, that's another thing I've taken to the students. Should we not do this? I mean, it's a lot of work, and they don't seem to be understanding how much work it was. But they keep saying no. They want to do our style. They want to do our shows. So we keep doing it. And plus there are some kids that are never going to play in a jazz band, and this might be the only exposure they get to playing some kind of swing. So I think that's important too.
One thing that I always think of when I think of Rincon, and I've said this for 10 plus years, I think if you get a show and you get a concept and the potential for general effect is right here, I think you guys get as close to the max potential as possible. When a lot of times, a lot of groups, and sometimes in the past, my shows, I feel like we have not reached the potential, and there's that last little bit there. I feel like you guys just go to the edges on that. What's your secret sauce on that, or how do you make that happen?
Well, I think I probably feel the same way you do, that we're not at our potential, that as good as it sometimes gets, we end every year with, I'm like, wow, we didn't ever really put that one visual in that I wanted to
Mhm.
do. And we always get to the end, because we're inventing this kind of out of whole cloth. We're fixing and writing and adding things all the way up to the last week. Um, so I don't know that I would say we ever get to our potential, but a lot of it's planned out ahead of time, even if we don't add it in for a month. Um, we have ideas, we have a list of ideas, and we're always picking, okay, we have an hour to put something in. Let's pick the two things that will make the most difference to the show, and try to put those in for this week. And then next week's going to be something new. And scheduling, sometimes some years are it just never seems like we have a week where we can add what we want to add or fix what we want to fix. So every year is a different challenge for that.
Yeah, the time is always working against us. So it seems like we never have enough time to put in all the cool things we want into the show, all the cool visuals, the cool things. We run out of time. Finals is coming for us all. So um, as we're coming to the end of our time together here, are there any shout outs that you'd like to give to folks at home, to your team in Tucson?
Well, we have a very supportive admin at our school. They don't support us with money because there's no money, but they support us in a lot of really important ways. For one, they kind of just don't micromanage us. If we're doing something, they know that we've got it handled. I have a really great booster program that raises a decent amount of money, but they also take care of all the personnel needs for not just chaperones, but volunteers. I think when it comes to show design wise, having Nicole Hamilton, my guard instructor, and designer, she's been with me since before I was there, and Brandon Olander on battery, and he's the overall percussion caption head. Having those people around has been great. Dan Phillips joined us in COVID and probably in some ways saved the program at that point. And so we came through that okay. When it comes getting back to design, though, I think that one of the things that helped me sustain for so long is I stopped writing drill. So when I started teaching high school, I wrote the drill. And so every Sunday night I was writing to teach on Monday night. And I was starting to get burned out, and I realized, this can be good even if I don't do every part of it. And so I started backing away from a couple of things like that. And I thought, well, man, me writing the drill is what makes these shows. And then, and then that wasn't true. Hire someone that actually writes drill for a living, you get a better product than I could make. So, I think having a little humility to know, okay, if I'm burnt out right now, what could I let go of that is causing me stress or taking up too many hours, um, and find out what that is, and find someone else to do that. I think that's really important, if you want to sustain for a long time. I also think that there's a lot of people that I hear talk about having a work-life balance, and I just think that's something you can strive for if you want a job. But if you want to achieve anything great, there are going to be moments where your life is wildly out of balance.
Mhm.
And then other times when it's not, it's, if what you're doing is important, it's worth, you know, putting in the grind for. If you don't think it's important, if you think I want the even amount of time on the job and off the job, you're saying that work is one thing and life is another, then this probably isn't the job for you, really. But I don't see work and life as two different things. Life is work is part of my life, so. Um, and that's what commitment is about, I think. Is doing it on the day you're not feeling it, and we try to teach that to our leadership all the time. And I would say our leadership program is something that we consider maybe the most important thing we do. More important than teaching music even is the things we teach in our leadership program.
I do know that you have a strong leadership program, and the selection process is
Yeah.
maybe for a future podcast that we could go into and learn more about your process there.
Yeah, I'd be happy
Um,
to. I mean, if you meet our drum majors, our section leaders, you would go, oh, these kids. And if I was a business owner, I would hire these kids,
Mhm.
because they really learn a lot. And none of it I invented, but I've kind of put it together and tweaked it the way that works for us at our school with our demographic. And like I said, I think it's almost the most important thing that we teach every year.
well, Jeff, I really appreciate your time. I know life is busy, but it's always great to catch up with you. So thank you for
Always.
coming
Yeah, and we need to get in touch
on.
Yeah,
Always.
thanks, Jeff.
about a show or something.
That's something. All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jeff.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Cheers, man.